It's early or late, whatever your perspective is. And yeah, I wanted to do a live. You have to forgive my screen, it's looking kind of terrible, but I wanted to do a live, and I'm doing it from my car because I just went dancing, right? And I'm always uh, just hyper sensitive to my surroundings, and I'm always these days just observing so much more than I ever have. Sometimes it's like sensory overload, but I haven't been out of the house in, almost a week, so I needed to go dancing, right? Anyway, it's Women's History Month. Today is officially March 5th, I believe. And yeah, it's officially March 5th. And it's Women's History Month, right? International Women's History Month. And I am 46 years old. I have been doing, political, activist work since officially through an organization 2000, but actually since the first event I ever coordinated was in 1993, right? So for a long time. And there were some things that happened today that just, for me, help concretize so much of what I had been experiencing and kind of going back and forth about how to articulate. And the things that I'm talking about is, it is 2022, and women have yet, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So let me give you some context, because I'm in my feels about some things that happened while I was at this little place. They do this kind of retro, it's called Club 54 night. So it's like a retro disco spot, right? But there were already some things that had happened throughout the day that have just, kept coming up as a theme for the day, right? And it is about the true value of women and fake allyship for women, and the erasure of the contributions of women, of the historical and current contributions of women, right? It never, I don't know why I was surprised about what happened today. I was talking to a friend. This friend happens to be male. And when I asked this friend, fully expecting a yes, was he going to the Women's History Month rally tomorrow in downtown LA? So tomorrow's rally is around abortion rights, I believe. And when I asked if he would be attending the rally, very quickly, without hesitation, his response was, that is a woman's thing, so no, I won't be going. And that fucked me up. Like, first of all, if it was an average person, you understand, I'd have been like, I would not have been surprised. But for this person to be who he is, I have to say, I was a little bit taken aback. I was like, are you being funny? I asked him, I said, are you joking? And he didn't answer. He didn't respond. And I'll just tell you, yo, like, there used to be this conversation. It was really kind of a low-key battle that I used to have with my ex-husband. Because even though at the time, because his marriage was challenging him to, he was trying to be more progressive. Even those small steps he made towards being progressive came through a lot of political struggle, right? Having to wage whole campaigns with my husband about this, about the ways that he still held on to, very hostile, entitled attitudes towards women. And in a lot of ways, a certain level of disdain. So even though he was, politically articulate, there was a lot about him that just revealed only through the closeness of marriage that men, y'all got a lot of fucking work to do. Y'all have a lot of work to do. Because even those of you who claim to be allies, who would still identify something as, quote, women's issues as a to draw a line of distinction, you're missing the fucking boat. You are missing the boat. Women's issues, and I will be fair in saying, in recognizing that historically, maybe in response to not feeling supported in these issues, women have in turn become, I don't know the word I'm trying to use. Let's see. Women have sharpened these distinctions as women's issues, and the subtext is, if it's a women's issue, men are not welcome. Men are not welcome in the discussion. Men are not welcome in the space. Men are not welcome. And I don't think in certain spaces in general, in mass women's issues, I don't think that that's ever been something that has been articulated by women. I don't ever recall when dealing with, or addressing issues such as abortion rights, or let me better say, what do you call it? Reproductive rights, right? Reproductive rights, issues of toxic masculinity, any issue that has been deemed, quote, women's issues or women's matters. I don't recall in mass women saying men aren't welcome in these discussions, men aren't welcome in these spaces. I don't recall that. But to make a line of distinction, and men have to understand where that line of distinction is that they make. What is it that causes you to make a line of distinction where, quote, women's issues are concerned, that you don't show up? That you don't show up. That you don't show up. That you don't support. Or if you do, it is minimally. So these discussions that I used to have with my ex-husband, man, I came up in an organization, which is interesting. I came up in a political organization that, while on the surface was interested in, in what was the connotation, what's the platform point? It was, we believe that, we are diametrically opposed to the special oppression of African women, and that we believe that women are equal makers and shapers of human history. It took me a minute because it's fucking 2:00 in the morning, but that's a dynamic platform. So on the surface, that shit sounds amazing. Doesn't mean that misogyny and patriarchal tendencies did not rear its ugly head within the context of the daily life and the daily work inside that organization, right? But, they took a relatively progressive position. about women, at least in theory, right? Which was, and I say in theory for a reason, because this issue, among others, was what contributed to me parting ways with this organization, despite the fact that I can easily, without hesitation, say that my abilities as an organizer came directly from my association with the African People's Socialist Party as a member of the party for 8 years, right? I digress. And the party is the organization that really taught me, really instilled a level of confidence in me to make political struggles that are sharp. You understand? Not demoralizing, not disrespectful, sharp, so that all involved in the struggle can grow. So when I come into a marriage with a brother who was a member of the same organization that taught me how to make political struggle against ideas that I know are fucked up, and then all of a sudden that quality that was, respected in me, is required to be subdued once I became a wife. And so when I became a wife to a brother that I called comrade in this organization, the party was, even though the party had this progressive line, the party did not deal at all. 0% actually refused to address, at least in my time in the organization, refused to address or acknowledge issues that were peculiar to African women, in real time, right? So you couldn't talk about misogyny. Yeah, you couldn't talk about patriarchy because that was some, quote, white people shit. That was white ideology or white feminist ideology, right? So in order as a black woman to even express how you are experiencing what the party called the peculiar and special oppression of African women, it was still within this bullshit, connotation that, the true enemy is imperial white power. And once we destroy imperial white power, all the contradictions that plague the African community will just magically motherfucking, you understand, wither away or some shit, right? Like, you cannot address the shit that plagues our community from within in real time while still being able to wage a contest against imperial white power, right? I'm saying this because today I saw several things happen that I just have to assume is spirit saying to me, you cannot let this day go by without addressing these issues that keep coming up, that are peculiar, particularly to women of color, and even more particularly to black women. So that was just the first thing. Me being disappointed, though honestly not surprised, just taken aback by this brother's position that the reason, because he could have said, I got shit to do or whatever, or just no, I'm not going. But to preface his I'm not going with, that's y'all shit. I'm paraphrasing, but that's women's issues, or that's a women's thing, so I'm gonna stay out of it. To me, is jarring. It is jarring. It just adds to what I have been experiencing since Women's History Month started. Since Women's History Month started 5 days ago now, well, 4 days ago, because we just in the 5th, I have been very ambitiously attempting to plan an event. Now, this is a women's issue, this is a WOC issue, and then it is a black women's issue, because the event that I am organizing is to uphold one one of the greatest champions in American history, who remains an unsung hero of the Black liberation movement, of Black spiritualist movement, of women's liberation movement, of women's rights movement, of women's suffrage movement. So I'm like, oh, well, this is a no-brainer. Harriet Tubman's 200th birthday will be recognized on March 10th. Nobody knows her actual date of birth. She was born in March 1822, but she transitioned in March as well, on March 10th of 1913, right? So everybody is going to be, at least the people that I know, apparently primarily in the South, are going to be acknowledging the radical evolutionary contributions of Harriet Tubman. So I said, hell yeah. It's ambitious. It just came to me, the 28th? Like, that's hella ambitious. Y'all know me as an organizer. I don't do shit if I ain't got 3 months. Right? But I was like, this is huge. The day itself is really huge astrologically. A lot of you know that I've been doing this whole thing around the Pluto returns. You understand? So astrologically, it is a massively significant day. I was like, hell yeah, we're going to do something for Harriet Tubman's 200th birthday, right? I put out the call, and in LA, baby, I put out the call and her crickets. I put out the call to a name that I know everybody in this country who was born and raised here knows her name, has at least heard her name once in a history book. I know that. I know that if they don't know nothing but she helped free some slaves, everybody out this bitch knows her name. I am living in a city that has a very revolutionary history. I ain't even gonna go there. But I was frustrated by how I was the only one, or at least I was sensing that I was the only one really internalizing the urgency and the importance of acknowledging Harriet Tubman. This woman, though it has not happened, it was said in 2008, though it has not happened, that Harriet Tubman's face was going to replace Andrew Jackson's face on the $20 bill. That's how important she was. The only female to be proposed to be on the paper currency. The only other female on U.S. currency is Sacagawea. So it was big. Crickets. Now, I don't get in my feelings the way that I used to. This would have had me stressed out as my old self, right? But I said, you know what? I know that spirit has got my back. This is important. I am sensing the urgency. And so, I'm just going to do what I do, while at the same time letting the chips fall where they may. While at the same time recognizing that one of the things that I have seen happen, throughout the time that I've been in California, and not functioning as an organizer, only giving myself as a volunteer to other people's stuff since I've been here. So this is the first official event that I am organizing since I've been in California. I needed that much needed break, because organizing in the South, though it has its pros, really nearly took me out. It really did. It was so emotionally fucking abusive, and it nearly took me the fuck out. And it was demoralizing, because it made me, it was demoralizing. So when I got here, I was very, very cautious about where I gave my time as a volunteer, where I gave my energy, what I allowed my name to be associated with. Because at the end of the day, I know a lot of people in LA, but they still don't know me. All they know is Yapo, who will come and support our shit, or who will come to an event, or who will come and turn up every now and again. They don't know me when I am in my motherfucking lane, when I'm in my bag. When I'm in my bag, when I'm in my lane as an organizer, they haven't met her yet, you see. And that's okay, right? But this is my coming out event, right? And so over the last 48 hours, it just occurred to me, like, even the displays. Child, look, I went to this event the other night, a Women's History Month event. And though the guy kept saying, I know it's about y'all, I promise, this is the last time I'm going to get up on the mic. This dude, and okay, it was his, like, the event happened in Women's History Month at the venue that is typically his venue, right? Like, it's his thing that happens recurringly, at this spot. Fine. That's fine. But don't acknowledge by saying it's Women's History Month and I want to give the women the opportunity to run this thing, and then interject so many times that night. Because the subtext is, this my shit. Okay, and can you relinquish your ego for a night to allow women to take center in this discussion that is supposed to be honoring them? Can that happen? You know what I'm saying? Imagine if it was Black History Month and some white ally who gave you the space or gave you the opportunity was like, I know I'm just a white guy, but and this is the last, I know it's Black History Month, but this is the last time I'm gonna say something. I promise it's the last time I'm gonna get up, because it's his shit and it's his venue, but we hosting our shit there. I know it's an unlikely example, but I am just saying, men have to show the fuck up, especially men of color. You are obligated to show the fuck up, and not in some phony ass, oh, I'm an ally when I'm not challenged kind of way. Man, this shit is old as fuck. It is exhausting. It is fucking phony. And it is demoralizing. You all are the sons of every woman afflicted by every issue you have reduced to, quote, a woman's issue. But you do not have the capacity, even as you call yourself progressive, you do not have the capacity to show compassion and investment, real human investment in the issues of women, because you do not see your mother in the women out there. You see, your mama is something different than you bitches over here. So that is why you still, even as you claim to be progressive, deny genuine compassion. Solidarity is not just about, baby, how I keep going to Che Guevara, because what he said rings so true and it's so vacant today. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe that I live in what people outside of this city see as probably the most progressive city in the country. And it is not. The contradictions are so glaring and so dank, and I am perpetually amazed, because what has happened is that the knowing has taken center. The evidence of knowing has taken center, and it becomes your resume for where you stand, for what your position is, you see. And that's why I get exhausted out here, man, because everybody is well versed. I mean, the proliferation of pontification is exhausting. Sometimes, y'all remember that scene in the movie I, Robot, and Will Smith is talking to the white girl scientist about what her job was at the place that built the robots, right? And, she started talking about, the human hybrid interfacing, blah, blah, blah. And he's looking at her like, and then he says, after her long jargon about what the fuck she does at the robot place, he says, could you say that to me like I got a 3rd grade education, please? Or what did he say? He said, can you say that to me as if I'm employed in the penal system or some shit, right? He's like, make it plain. Can you make it plain? And she was like, oh, after like a literal whole diatribe about what's the interfacing of the human hybrid, blah, blah, blah. And he said, can you make it plain? And she said, oh, my bad. Sorry. I make the robots more human. He was like, wasn't that easier to say? And she was like, no, not really. Listen, that shit is so goddamn real out here, yo. I'm like, and it's not just white people doing that shit, yo. Everybody, natives, Mexicans, black folks, everybody has jumped on the train, baby, of these long, gross, fucking soulless pontifications about what they do in the different places they show up, baby. But there is a reason, honey. There is a reason that this shit out here looks the way that it does. And so it's like you may go, everybody's progressive. But what does it mean when you live in the most progressive city supposedly in the country and the homeless rate has increased 70%, 73% in 10 years? Where you, what was the other thing? Gentrification across all races and all communities, according to voters polls, is still the number one concern of voters, yet it is one of the cities, I'm telling you, being gobbled up in real fucking time. This city, like San Francisco reported, has had a gradual decrease, sharp but gradual decrease over the last 10 years of its black population. That presupposes that motherfuckers ain't getting married and having babies. That presupposes that how does a population decrease and nobody be like, there's something interesting and wrong with this? It's not a small decrease. I was reading somewhere that in 1993, I think it was, the black population in Los Angeles was 17%. Today, it is 7%. Like, ain't nobody in the black community had no babies. Like, ain't nobody family members done moved to the city to be closer to other family members. Like, just the goddamn community is disappearing. But everybody progressive. Everybody got a nonprofit. Everybody support Black lives. You have goddamn 500,000 people in the street of LA marching around Black lives. But these issues are glaring that there is a, to me, it is bold. It's out, but I just don't understand. I do not understand how. I just don't understand what I'm looking at out here, yo. I do not understand that while Black Lives Matter in LA, apparently there has been a serial killer in this city for 20 years targeting only Black women. You don't hear nothing about it in the news. I didn't know nothing about it until this elder called me and was like, look, I've been working on this shit for years. Can't get no play, can't get no story, can't get no headlines in the news. They convicted the wrong dude because they needed nobody to make no noise about it. Meanwhile, as this dude done went into prison, these murders are still happening. You understand? It's just time, man. It is time for all the covers to be pulled off this shit, yo. All of it. All of it. All of it. All the covers off all the shit. And I ain't like, look, man, if America is going to be judged, what does that mean for the people who live in America? What does that mean for each of us and how we show the fuck up? We got all the criminalization of the corporatocracy, of imperialism, of imperial white power, of the preschool to prison pipeline, of the, you know what I'm saying? What else? You understand? Like, we got all the juice for all the invisible. See, when you struggle against shit that ain't got no fucking face, you'll find yourself running around in goddamn circles. We fighting the corporatocracy. What the fuck does that even mean? We fighting, the preschool to prison pipeline. What the fuck does that even mean? Who runs that? Who owns that? Who faces it that we are attaching that shit to? You understand? These giant ass ambiguities and shit. You understand? We've fighting the public school system. Whatever. But at the end of the day, man, like, it's Women's History Month, man. I had to search, and I mean do a serious comb through. I'm emailing people. I'm texting people. Is there nothing going on in this city for Women's History Month? Is there no centralized place where a person who may just be out of town can just go and say Women's History Month LA and all the shit will pop up? It took me, because I'm creating an event. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go to other Women's History Month events and, in the process of supporting what they got going on, maybe I have the opportunity to talk to some people about coming and supporting what I got going on. So it was just a part of my calendar making process. Man, I found 4 events for the next month. 4. Don't mean there ain't more out there, but they ain't widely promoted. They ain't, and at the end of the day, people do not really, viscerally, baby. People don't really internalize the significance of women. They don't. They show face because women demand space. Right? They give a little, solidarity nod, to Women's History Month. They may mention it in passing at an event. You understand? But it doesn't change. It doesn't change, internally, how people view the issues that are peculiar to women. It does not transform what they know or what they think they know, does not transform people's behavior. People are not invested in the issues, quote, that are peculiar to women. And so one thing that I can say as an organizer in the South that I had to fight for, but we have to fight for it. Every event that I did as a Sankofa Shule for New Life, which was the health branch of the organization that we had built, So I did the first few events that I had done were, quote, women's issues. One was on presenting birthing alternatives for Black and Latino women to address the very horrifying statistics, statistics that exist in Black and Latino women in Hillsborough County, right? I did a couple of other events. Oh, I did with the Sister Cherie. We did a month. Every Saturday for a month, we did Women's History Month events focusing on different issues, on education, on, Black female entrepreneurs, so on and so on. Black women or women of color as culture creators, whatever, right? It was like 5 weeks that month. And we did all these events. Every single event that I did that centered women, that centered women's issues, and that centered women's gifts, I made a stern call for men to participate, regardless of what your romantic situation was. Because that's the other thing you'll find, is that men cannot display unity or compassion with, quote, women's issues unless they can see the issues of women directly in their direct relationship with their wife, their boo, their baby mama, their auntie, or their sister, or their daughter. And if they ain't got none of them, they cannot and refuse to relate to the issues of women. So I said, fuck that. I don't care if you booed up or not. I do not care if you married or not. I do not care if you've been single for 10 years. Women's issues are everyone's issues. Every fucking one. Men have to show up. They have to show up. They have to be able to be quiet while they are hearing and learning what women have to say about what is happening to them. Not only do they have to shut up and hear that, they have to be able to articulate it so that they can champion those issues, initiate those issues in circles of men. It's not our job to win men to a fucking decent position about the role of women, the importance of women, the significance of women, the validity of women holding up half the space on the planet. That's not our job to do that shit. I would have these conversations with my husband. We would talk about it. We'll be in an event. I'll say something from the mic at this event. He will piggyback what I say damn near verbatim what I said, and the response will be wildly different. So I used to tell him, if you can recognize it, if you say, damn, Yapo, like, damn, you said the same thing, why motherfuckers didn't give you the same response they gave me? So if you can recognize it, doesn't it behoove you to take our conversations as comrades, recognizing the current weaknesses, right, of men or male conscious people, right? Male-centered humans, right? Doesn't it behoove you recognizing that there is, listen, women talk about this shit all the time, about this kind of weird ass selective hearing that men have as soon as we open our mouths, right? Or this hearing that is distorted or mutated. Somehow they heard the exact opposite of what the fuck came out of our mouth, you understand? Because they stepped into space with us ready to, politically spar or some bullshit, right? And so I said, if you recognize that, you're like, damn, Yapo, that shit was weird. If you recognize that, then the next conclusion that you should be coming to is, I'm going to take the notes from the struggles that you make with me and the conversations that we have in the house, and I'm going to make sure that I am transmitting this information through me, where I know that it is my presence that will make men more receptive to the message. That's real. I don't see the men. I even thought about this event that I'm organizing, calling on some man. I thought about it for about 2 days. I was like, okay, who in the community as a man can I reach out to to make a solidarity statement, right? A solidarity statement at this event honoring Harriet Tubman. And the person that I'd gone back and forth about asking was the person that said he would not be going to the rally tomorrow because that's a women's thing. The one man that I had considered asking to offer a solidarity statement, and he just confirmed it for me today. And he was like, yeah, that's a woman's thing, so no, I won't be going. Lord, I see, y'all motherfuckers keep me in my emotions. Here I am, constantly trying to be the visionary, right? Trying to maintain my connection with the earth, to be grounded, to be firmly rooted in the material world, in matter, in my body, in my flesh, right? Be connected to those things that are in the flesh, that are in the world, that are of substance, while allowing spiritual intervention to guide me in a certain way. And I stay conflicted, man. Because some days I'm just like, you know what? This shit I've been talking about. Some days, baby, I just don't know. Some days I'm just like, look, because I am not one of those. I am not one of those hyper spiritual people who is telling you that you have to, do manifestations and you have to be deliberate about your affirmations. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. That's not me. That ain't never been me. So even as I'm talking about the power of prayer, the necessity for so-called revolutionaries to be doing meditations and manifestation prayers and affirmations of the affirmative, you understand? Speaking the future into existence right now, and I believe it. But that is not divorced from needing to be active on the ground in the real world, which is why, again, I am always like putting myself up to volunteer and, and serve the people in the best way that I can, right? So I'm not an escapist in my spirituality. I am not this duplicitous, segmented, compartmentalized, creature who is dissected within myself. That ain't me, right? I have been doing a lot of self-challenging. A lot. I have been doing a lot of challenging old ideas, coming back to them, reassessing them. Should I do away with them completely, or should they just evolve? There is some merit in them, but they need to evolve, right? What is it that I really do need to put away because I have learned from it what I can? And what is it that I need to keep but sharpen the edges or blunt the edges or, allow to evolve, right? And so as a woman who, has had many, many extremely opposing experiences in my life. I have been many people in my life. I have been many people in my life. Understand? All of those all of those experiences that allowed me to present in one way or another at a different time were necessary, right? But this thing that is happening to all of us right now, it cannot evolve. Maybe that's the frustration I'm feeling tonight. Because up until tonight, man, I've been pretty optimistic. I've been pretty upbeat. I've been pretty like, look, I realize that the world seems as though it's falling apart, but we need to steer clear of that bullshit and ass narrative. I've been trying to be really upbeat and to keep us focused. But to today / yesterday helped me to understand that it may be that I have been too optimistic. No, not too optimistic, because I'm still optimistic. But what I have been doing, I feel, is I have been too gentle in my approach. I have been too gentle in my approach. I've been too gentle in my approach. Sometimes, unfortunately, in the movement, it was always said that power concedes to nothing but power. And so for me, that didn't necessarily mean force. It didn't necessarily mean force. It just meant opposing power. I thought a lot about like martial arts and how, you can defeat an aggressor without being offensive, right? That you can use defensive strategies and tactics and still overcome an aggressor. I related to that it was seeing that power is not synonymous with force, right? So when I was in the movement though, right, the way the ideology was presented or taught was the opposite. It was that the only way to prevent brute force was with brute force. And that made sense to me at the time. Like, I had a real hard line. Like, we're gonna have to kill all these motherfuckers. We're gonna have to run through this bitch like the plague, like the goddamn angel of death in the Bible and shit. And the motherfuckers left standing are the motherfuckers that need to be here. Like, I had a really fucked up, but I believed that shit. Like, I was like, this shit is so far gone, man. This shit is so far gone. The level of corruption and gross fucking decadence and duplicity, and it's like, where the fuck do you possibly begin? Where do you even start? God damn it. Where do you even start to begin to make a dent in the madness that we know as the world right now? We don't have to be, fearful of wars and shit. We can look at our regular everyday lives and be like, oh, this shit is over. This shit is over. Okay? It's a wrap. It's a wrap out this bitch. If we do not do something so far beyond our imagination of what radical is, this shit is over. It is over. And to me, it makes perfect sense. If the world that we live in is the creation, oh my God, is the creation of a false ass male mother. Oh my God. Was given rise to by the literal murder of the mother that we are still witnessing today. And that everything that we call bad, everything that we see as bad or oppressive or destructive, afflicting, oppressing, enslaving, everything that we quote rally against or build organizations to address has an origin, a singular origin. And if that is the case, baby, then it just seems to me like at least a good starting point for making a dent in this madness is for us also to return to the source. Just seems to me like if you really want to fight the power, if you really want to take a significant, powerful jab at white supremacy, the global what do y'all call it? Corporatocracy, all these fancy names y'all give for old ass imperialism. It seems to me if you want to make a jab, a significant and even stunning jab at the man, at imperialism, at globalization, at the corporatocracy, at white supremacy, at corporations that destroy the planet, all of your bags and all of your lanes, collectively take a jab at what is the seed for all of this shit, then the way to do that is to return to the mother. And y'all don't want to do that because you hate women. Don't none of you want to do that because you all hate women. You all. I ain't just talking about men. I am telling you that you all hate women. You all hate women. Women hate women. Trans people hate women. LGBTQIA hate women. Men hate women. Children hate women. You all hate women. And to add to that, the darker the woman gets, the more your hatred for her is expressed. That's the most radical shit you can do, in my estimation, is to show up in the biggest and most radical displays human history has ever seen, is to show up for women. In radical displays of showing up. In radical displays of initiating. In radical displays that go far beyond the confines of fucking allyship and quote solidarity. And y'all ain't ready to do that. And the man know y'all ain't ready to do that. That is why his ass is secure in his position where the fuck he is, which is with his boot on your fucking neck. And I don't give a fuck who you are. Black, red, brown, white, yellow, male, female, LGBTQIA. Baby. That's the starting point in my estimation. I stand by it. You cannot be touting off at the mouth about what patriarchy is, and we have to end patriarchy. What does ending patriarchy look like as a strategy? As a strategy that is set supposedly to contend with power, to contend with institutional power. What does ending patriarchy even begin to look like? Is it trying to, with your voice, win men to have compassion for your humanity? Is that what it is? And this shit is exhausting, yo. Like, when those among you that are supposed to be progressive can't come to a righteous position without you kicking their ass politically, you cannot be married to a motherfucking revolutionary without being exhausted, not supported. Exhausted for the amount of struggles that you have to make with somebody you swore was ahead of the curve. Oh my God. To be involved in political work that you know can change the world, man, and have to really question whether the people that are doing that work with you are really about that fucking life. Are they really about what it is they say they about? I'm watching shit today about, quote, indigenous men, oh my God. Indigenous men, facilitating these relationships with these white women to take advantage of them, and exploit them and deny them informed consent. Well, all the while, everything you're talking about is decolonizing, you understand, is anti-imperial struggles. Oh my God, is this shit, to be a woman of color in this sea of madness, is fucking exhausting. Every moment of it, every day of it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Every day, women of color in general, and the darker the skin of that woman is in particular. You understand? Every single moment of our existence under this shit is a literal fight for our sanity and our safety and our beingness and our right to exist on our own terms safely and being able to self-define. Every fucking moment. I'm witnessing it in real time. I have a granddaughter, and even though this granddaughter, is what some would gently call melanin deficient, I am watching this baby. She's almost 4. At 4 years old, I am watching this child develop mannerisms and behavior that are emblematic of the self-policing that women are acculturated to do. My baby is 3. And I am seeing her withdraw, even as I'm trying to teach her to be big and bold and take up space and have I am literally in real time watching this human being become a contortionist, become living, breathing origami, learning at the age of 3 that because of her beingness, she must fold in on herself. She must turn in on herself. She must be quieter and softer and less present and less visible. And even though my granddaughter, Kalani, will have a peculiar set of circumstances that she must confront because this society is what it is right now, right? And Kalani, though coming from a melanated grandma and a melanated mama, Kalani was born with white skin and green eyes and blonde hair. So she will be one of those humans that, for some say it's the quote best of both worlds, the quote flair and shit that comes from blackness, right? And the privilege that comes from whiteness. I've heard this shit. You understand? So I'm not talking no shit that I am not eerily familiar with, right? She will be put in situations where she will be required to deny her blackness. She will be put in situations where, without her blackness being known, people that look like her will be comfortable around her talking about members of her family that look like me or that look like my parents, because she and her little brother, but her little brother is a little caramel baby. He is melanated. Kalani is, Kalani, that's my boo. That's my baby. She is my life lesson. She is. She really, really is. Right? And, but she will be one of those people that will feel pressured from every aspect of society about who she is and how she presents in the world. My prayer for Kalani, my prayer for Zane, my prayer for all children, but my prayer for my baby, my prayer for Kalani is that right now, with the work that I am doing, right now with the work that I am engaged in, by the time she is an adolescent, if you have me tell it, by the time she is a teenager, she will live in a world where she will not need any allies because there will be no adversaries. That is my prayer for my granddaughter. That is my prayer for her children. That is my prayer for their children. Is that in this moment, with what has been handed to me, what has been handed to us, that we can right now, today, create a world where our descendants, our offspring, will not ever have to need solidarity movements, will not have to question the intentions of, quote, allies, will be completely safe in their walk through life from the time they are born until the time they are reconnected with the mother. That is my prayer. But some days that prayer gets tried, man. Today was one of those days. I'm like, and I get conflicted, man. I'm like, yo, why couldn't I just, but I can't even say it out loud. I cannot even say out loud. Like, sometimes I just want this shit to be easy already. Like, I don't need to be giving divine interventions and epiphanies and breakthroughs and shit for this shit to be harder and harder and harder and harder. You understand? I do not. I'm like, look, if this is what it is, like, I'm gonna need a year off from the fucking movement. I am gonna need a year off, man. I'm gonna need a year off. The spirit is like, bitch, you ain't got a year. You ain't got a year off. You can't have a year off, not right now. Like, maybe in about 2, 3, 4 years, you can have a year off, but not today, baby. Not today. Anyway, let me take my ass home. But y'all, anybody calling themselves an ally of any kind, you need to show up better. You need to show up as if your life was on the line. You need to show up as if your happiness and your safety and your sanity was what was on the line. That is what is required of allies. Period. Period, period, period. You are not in the center if you are an ally. Che Guevara, who y'all all love and all hold up as the quintessential white boy turned revolutionary, and that is no disrespect. But since y'all can only hear it from the mouths of white men like Marx and Lenin and Che and Fidel, that's the only... that's another story for another day. But since y'all need that, Che Guevara said a solidarity. Solidarity is not a matter of simple well-wishing. It isn't the sharing of the fate of the oppressed, whether in victory or in death. It is that's the end of the quote. But it is casting your fate with the many. It is seeing them, you in them, and them in you. You see, it is fighting on the behalf of those struggling, working with, showing up for, on those that you say you want to form alliances with, showing up for them the way you would if your own life was on the line, if your own life was being threatened, if your own safety, sanity, security, and sovereignty was being threatened. You show up for them the way you show up, the way you would show up for yourself. Anything less than that is a lie. Anything less than that is a lie. It is a lie. It is false. It is fake. It is phony. It is a lie. It is a lie. There are a lot of you motherfuckers out here calling yourself revolutionaries, calling yourselves progressive, calling yourselves allies, calling yourselves solidarity forces. You understand? Because you align yourself with colored bodies. But y'all got shadow work to do too. And I'm convinced that's why a lot of you motherfuckers stay away from spirituality, is because spirituality is the thing that would have you self-checking all the time. See, it's easy to be a Marxist and a Leninist and a socialist and a communist when you can say, religion is the opiate of the masses, so I don't fuck with religion, right? But you deny the existence and the necessity of spirituality, so you do not have to self-check. You see, that's what that is. Y'all avoid that shit like the plague. Y'all avoid the self-checking. Y'all want to hold up Marx and Lenin and shit and the science of revolution, but y'all hate criticism and you hate self-criticism. You don't ever own your shit. That's the part of socialist ideology and revolutionary science don't none of y'all fuck with. A lot of y'all motherfuckers out here using the culture, and this has been a soapbox of mine for many years. You are using the culture. You are using the traditions of your ancestors. You are using, the culture and the traditions of your ancestors. And even the political lines. These have become your new swords for which you slay others with, particularly women. Particularly those who you see weaker and more malleable, easy to manipulate. So your silver ass tongue becomes the sword that you slay women with. Or you deceive children with. You are being judged too. It ain't just America. You have participated in the very activities that allow this bitch to continue in the same old way. But see, you want to absolve yourself from individual responsibility, blame everything that you do because you watch some faceless entity out there in the world that just set the whole world up against you. That's the problem, not you and your individual God self, whether you remember it or not, taking responsibility for every decision that you make, because within every decision that you make is a manifestation you are creating. It is a reality that you are creating in every decision. Every fucking decision is a reality that you are creating because you have the creative potential of God. You have the creative power of God. So while you handing over blame and making yourself the perpetual victim of this faceless entity that we have given supreme power to, But at the end of the day, baby, every decision. That doesn't mean that the world ain't what it is. It does not mean that the system isn't designed the way that it is. What it does mean is once we start doing this motherfucking shadow work for real, once we start getting into the ways that we have, baby, either been complicit or directly participatory in the upholding of this very system that we say we are opposed to. In every decision, in every moment, we've done that. We've done that. We've done it. Motherfuckers, look. And that's not to say that there aren't victims who are completely innocent victims of the system in some way or another. But there are a lot of you motherfuckers, and we see it all the time. All these listen, all these exposés, all these motherfuckers being put on blast in real time. Colored people claiming to be priests and claiming to be, teachers and healers and, carriers of medicine. Exploiting in the most gruesome and disgusting ways the most vulnerable among them. And I will be the first to say, I done said it to my godmother. I will be the first to say, I don't want no man, no, and it ain't even about trust at this point. I do not want any man placing ashe in my head. I don't. I do not want, baby, look. Y'all got shadow work to do. Y'all have demonstrations of devotion to do. I do not give, if this ain't for you, then it ain't for you. I'm telling you what my position is. I'm telling you what spirit has placed on my head and on my heart. Men in particular have displays of devotion to do before they are to be trusted in space. And I have blindly, repetitively given men the benefit of the doubt. So many times. Oh my God. So many times. So many times. Wanting to believe. Wanting to believe that if given the opportunity and shown the, compassion, you understand, shown respect, dealt with politically and spiritually, that they could take the right position. While this system of patriarchy is intact, they cannot hear. I'm sorry. They are flawed. They are flawed. And until patriarchy is dead and buried, burnt to ash, buried deep in the body of the earth, and the soil on top salted so nothing else can grow from it, y'all can't hear. Y'all can't learn. You can't evolve. You can't. You can't. You can't be trusted because the sickness is deep, 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 deep in your flesh and your blood and your bones and your marrow. It's deep. It's deep. You are so invested in the sickness, so invested in the madness. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Anyway, I'm gonna take my ass home.